Be Your Best You, the Passionate to Purpose podcast with David Delaney. Good morning and welcome to the podcast. It is a delight to be back on this beautiful sunny morning, a gorgeous spring day. And today we talk to David Butler. David, who is living in Portarlington in County Laois in Ireland, is an animator and illustrator, and he graduated from the Dunleary Film Institute of Ireland. David has worked on several award-winning projects, which we'll talk about in the podcast, that includes the BAFTA award-winning Sir Gawain and The Green Knight. So his website is anithing.ie, which is anithing.ie. Have a look and enjoy the podcast. Good morning, David Butler.
Morning, Dave. How are you, sir?
All is good on this beautiful spring morning in County Laois. It's good to see you. Good to have you here.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, it's good to chat to you. It's been a while, a couple of months since I was talking to you last.
Absolutely. I have a very, very important question, and I hope you forgive me for starting with such a strong, but it's a question that I do need answered, and it's, do fish wear pajamas?
Oh, Dave, you're after hitting me with one there. Look, all what I say to people is you have to read the book, man. You have to read the book.
Right. Well, let's start there, right? Do fish wear pajamas? I was doing research. I was kind of going, that's an actual brilliant title for anything. Tell me about Do Fish Wear Pajamas? Where is it? What is it? How is it? Why is it?
Yeah, listen, that was the thing that kicked all this off. So Do Fish Wear Pajamas was a title of a book that I did with a friend of mine called Mario Kurgan. And believe it, it's actually a good thing to start out with because it's actually what kicked kind of everything that I've done off. Back in 2010, I had a painting exhibition in the Derby Festival in Kildare town. I'm a Kildare town man by design, by the way. I'm originally from Kildare. So I had a painting exhibition in Derby Festival in Kildare town, and another artist friend of mine called Eamon Ellers. Two of us were on it, and a guy called Mario Kurgan, who's a Kildare librarian, and Mario came to launch the exhibition for the Derby Festival. The county arts officer wasn't available for this particular event, so Mario came along. And I'd kind of known Mario. Mario plays bass in a few bands, and I'd met him through friends of friends a few times and that. But I wouldn't have, we exchanged numbers and stuff like that, but we weren't mad close or anything like that. We're just kind of acquaintances, distant acquaintances. And so Mario, we're going around the exhibition, and Mario was talking about the other artist, Eamon Ellers, and he's amazing, real, all Star Wars, all film, Indiana Jones and all this sort of stuff. Very creative guy. I'm still working with him. He's helping us out in Celticon, doing a few bits actually, just as we speak. Mario was kind of looking at all my stuff, and my background's in animation, so I have this kind of cartoony style, this kind of child friendly, if you like, kind of style to my artwork. And look, at no matter what I do, it's kind of ingrained me at this stage. So Mario said to me, look, I have this idea for a book. Would you be interested in illustrating it? And I was chatting away, whatever. Yeah, no hassle. So about 6 months later, I was in work one day and I got this missed call from Mario. And so where I was working at the time, I was in an office, so I couldn't really take the call there. So I went out in the corridor and had a chat with Mario, rang him back, and he says, do you remember that project you said you were interested in? And I was like, all right, come on, what did I sign up to, So I said, look, I have this idea for a children's book. And I said, look, yeah, I love the idea. I've never done one before, but I'd absolutely love the idea of a chance to get working on something like that. And I said to him, one condition. And he goes to me, what's that? And I says, I don't want to illustrate a book that's going to be stapled together or put in a drawer somewhere that no one's ever going to see. I said, I want this book to look like it should be on the shelf. It could fit on the shelf in between Harry Potter and Roald Dahl and all those sort of stuff, and Oisin McGann's books and all that. I said, look, I want a book. Look, I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's the thing. And he said, right, we'll try our best. So he went off then and got some money from Kildare County Council initially from the Arts Act grant and the kind of library service in Kildare, because that's his job, and all that sort of stuff. And they came back with this great idea. So what Do Fish Over Pajamas actually was Mario had the title, and he had one character's name called Bebop's Zibbly Bob, and he went into kids in primary school in third class in Kildare town, and there was 2 boys classes and 2 girls classes, and he workshopped through the kids this story, kind of using the local mythology and kind of with some local historical buildings like the Kildare Cathedral and stuff like that. And he made this kind of workshop through the kids, this story. So that's kind of how all that happened. So I got sent this book, this email came across, and I just loved it. It was all set in Kildare town. I kind of knew bits and pieces. I was actually learning some of the historical stuff, like there's a grey and a black abbey and a white abbey, and I was like, never knew anything to that. I knew a grey abbey. There's a vet there across from Aldi. Actually, Aldi wasn't there at the time, and when we're doing this book, but I learned bits and pieces from it. And
so, is that your process? Do you get when you're writing a book and when you're working on a book? Do you, when you're collaborating, because I know you've done a few collaborations as well, do you get the material, or like what's the main process? Do you work off something that someone else has kind of given you the bones for, or do you come up with the whole thing yourself? Tell me a bit about the process behind it.
Breaking up there, Dave. I don't know if you can hear me.
Sorry there, no.
I'm good now.
Yes. Yeah. You got the question.
Yeah, so,
get the question. Yeah.
Oh, looks like the unstability of the internet's on my end. So listen, I get the email. What I say to kids when I go into schools and do workshops and libraries and stuff, I say, look, the difference between an illustrator and a reader isn't that different at the beginning, because we are just given the book. And if you read a book and imagery comes to your head, and good books do that, and as you're reading stuff, they get inside your head and create the images and create the world as you're reading a book. And all illustrators do is just take those images and try and create illustrations from them. So the only kind of thing we would have is we would have the book in advance. Actually, do fish wear pajamas. I absolutely hadn't a clue what to do. Had to figure it all out, and sometimes that's the best way. Just jump into the deep end and learn how to get the far side of it. I was actually chatting to a friend of mine recently. He did interviewed me for a college project, and I suppose the big thing that I kind of have is I get these ideas and I get these projects and I do them, but the thing about me is I actually carry them through. And I think that's my biggest strength. I don't just talk about these things. I try my best. Like, I don't always succeed. I'd like to think I've reasonably successful, or I've done a good job of the stuff that I've done in the past, but in general, like I kind of get asked to do these things, and I suppose from having the animation and that sort of background, I kind of get asked to do different things, and I'm that kind of artist guy, and sometimes it's the only artist guy that people know, and that's kind of got initially how I would have got stuff.
There's a history theme, I suppose, running through some of your work as well. I mean, Shackleton was another book you worked on, and are there similarities, say, with the journey, like Shackleton, great explorer? Do you compare yourself in some sense to being an explorer as well? Like, do you explore the worlds that you like? Do you immerse yourself in order to produce the work, or do you treat it like a job? I'm doing this, I need to figure this out, or do you actually go full on immerse and I'm going to go on this journey? Like, how creative, I suppose, is the process for you?
No, you've hit the nail on the head with that. No, it absolutely isn't an adventure. It isn't a journey. And and you do immerse yourself in the world, whether it's through books, through documentaries, through the research that you do. Yeah, I suppose actually the shackling is actually linked to do fish wear pajamas as well. So you just absolutely hit the nail on the head there. So how we launched the book of Do Fish Wear Pajamas was through a festival in Kildare town called One Book, One Town. So the idea was all the schools would read a certain book, and they would all have this kind of little festival, a little kind of get together, having read the book. All the primary schools, by the way. So that particular year, the guys read Michael Smith, who's a Shackleton author. They read his book, Tom Crean, the Iceman. And we were all invited to the launch because we were launching our Do Fish Wear Pajamas, and we had the launch at the festival, and we all went for lunch in the Silk and Thomas in Kildare town. And I was having lunch with Michael Smith, and there's a few others there, a few school teachers and my old school principal and things like that. And Mario was there as well. And I was sitting with Michael Smith, and everyone was asking, oh, how about all this about Tom Crean and all this about Shackleton? And I hadn't a clue. I thought Shackleton was British. I knew he was an explorer. I knew of Tom Crean. I knew he was a cool guy. I kind of knew him from the Guinness ads years and years ago, and those iconic images and stuff like that. But I didn't know an awful lot about it. So I was sitting there with lunch, all these people asking questions with Michael Smith, and they're all really energetic and all. And like, I hadn't a clue. So I said to myself, if I ever meet Michael Smith again, I am going to read his books before I ever meet him again. And my God, when I read his books, I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe there's this Kildare-born Antarctic explorer that I knew very little about. So I got all excited about it. Said if I knew nothing about him, everyone needs to know about him, and that was the kind of journey for that. So we actually did a little project in Castledermot, a school in Castledermot, with a Thai library. I know you worked in a Thai for a while there. So we did a little book on Shackleton. So the guys in Castledermot did a project on their local hero. So they picked Shackleton, and they picked Michael Smith's book on Shackleton. It's called The Boss, so Shackleton Boss. So they picked that book, and they want to do a little kind of illustration project or thing with it. And I was like, okay, this book is already illustrated. Like, why are we illustrating a book that's already illustrated? And I said, look, why don't we do a comic book version of it? And so the guys in the library got really excited about that. And so I went into school, Castledermot, with the book. The kids all were reading the book, Shackleton the Boss. And a teacher in the class, a guy called Owen Kirk, said to me about the James Caird journey. And he said, it's the most amazing boat journey in Antarctic or sea history. And it's kind of skipped over in the Shackleton story. And the reason it's skipped over is because there's no photographs of it. So there's these amazing photographs of Tom Crean and the boat stuck in the ice and all these iconic images of the endurance expedition, but there's none of the actual James Caird. And that sparked the idea. So there's kind of 4 chapters of Michael Smith's book, and there was 4 tables that I was dealing with. So we said, right, that's the version we're going to do. We're going to do the James Caird, and we're going to have each table work on the chapter of the book. So they were to break it down and illustrate, do their version, a little kid's comic book version of the James Caird through the 4 chapters. So I was doing this process, and I found this with primary school kids. They're great, by the way. They've great imaginations and great whatever. But I found a thing where there's these kids that are really good at art, and what was happening was everybody else was doing what that kid was doing at the table. So the kid would do a really great picture of a ship, and next to me you have 4 copies of this exact same picture on the table. I said, right, okay, we're not going to get through this 4 chapters. So I went off, I got my notebook out and I broke down the story as I would through illustrating. So I would do these kind of little thumbnail sketches. And it's an animation thing as well. We do it all the time. So I would visually break down the story in these little tiny sketches. And so I worked out all of the 4 chapters of what we're doing, and I kind of gave the kids a little kind of the animation skills that we do. So basically, when you look at each character, each one has a unique design to it, little design elements to it, and you'd see it all the time. You just wouldn't really know it. So if you've seen all the Simpsons lining up, standing up, you would know by the silhouette that that's Homer, that's Marge, that's Lisa, that's Bart. You'd know those shapes. So I kind of did that sort of thing with the different characters, and little did I know I was actually doing all the pre-prep for what I needed for my own book. So around that time as well, I was working with a friend of mine called Gavin McCummsky, and Gavin was self-publishing his own comic books, and we called Innocent Tales. Gavin's a loud man, but he's from Loud, not loud. Well, he is loud as well, but no, he's from Loud, Dundalk. So, and he's living in Tullamore, so that's kind of got in touch with Gavin, and so we were looking at projects to work on after doing the short comics. So he would give me stories, like 4-page stories, and I think some of them were 8 pages long, and we're coming up with different ideas, and look, what about this, what about like that, and Shackleton was just rising in my mind, and it was coming up to the centenary of the 100-year anniversary of the James Caird as well. So all these things were all happening. So we decided to do a few book pitches and send off to publishers and see what happens. So after a few initial rejections, I got some great advice actually from one publisher who decided not to go with it. What people don't realize as well, that this stuff is kind of it's like a business as well, you know. So it's not that they don't like your idea or they don't like your thing. It's just like it's not commercial enough. It's not hitting the mark. So
is that hard for you as a creative to get that rejection?
It is, and well, because I did animation and I've gone through that process, and we've had TV series ideas that didn't go ahead, and I had short films and stuff. Yeah, it's just part of it. So the biggest thing about filmmaking or animation or anything like that is getting films funded. Creating them and getting the people is the kind of easy part. It's actually getting the money to make them is the hardest part.
You've worked at Channel 4, like you worked on Sir Gawain.
Yeah, so we did Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Yeah, so I was quite lucky with that. So we actually won a BAFTA award for that project back in 2002. And ironically, I actually haven't worked full-time in animation since that. But that's just part of life, you know, like things change. And yeah, so I did 2 kind of animation series and a short film. So the Sir Gawain the Green Knight was 25 minutes long, which is an episode of kids animation now, but at the time it was all hand drawn and it was a massive ordeal. So kind of animation projects that length were actually considered feature films. So when we go to film festivals, we were under the feature film category because we were over like 15 minutes. So that was kind of a bit mad. But yeah, we actually won a TV BAFTA in 2002, and I described the things. We got nominated, and the producers now were talking to us, and I said, look, Agwash, look, bring your family with you. We're not going to win it. Bring your family over, make a weekend of it, and do whatever. And I remember being in my desk at home. We're living in a house at the time, and I was like drawn. Of course, I was drawn 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. And I get this phone call, say that we won, and I just couldn't believe it. It was absolutely just nuts, like, Um, and the very next day, I was actually going into an evening shift in work, and I work in Pfizer Newbridge, and I was heading in, and that wasn't long there at the time. And I got the phone call on a bus to say there was a party on that night, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going into work." And the situation in work was I was only in that particular, I got moved in the area, so I was in that particular area, and I was only there for a week or two, and I hadn't quite scoped out what the crack was, So I went into work, and I still to this day, man, regret it, because I missed the whole buzz of that.
You're sitting there in work, a BAFTA award-winning animator, and you're just doing the job, like.
Yeah, look, it was the project that won, so we won best animation. So it's the project that won. It wasn't me personally,
How much work? Like when we see 25 minutes on screen, I think I suppose with this modern world, which I'll talk to you about in a sec as well. When we see 25 minutes, in terms of days, weeks, months, years, what's in 25 minutes in terms of the workload?
So 25 minutes back then, it was a hand-drawn animation. So we actually drew that in pencil and inked in pen and marker, and it's absolutely nuts. People just wouldn't do this stuff now. So the actual film that we did, and I actually think kind of the selling point of it is we did it to look like stained glass windows, and that was the unique look we had to it. So we had like this wasn't my idea, by the way, and I'm not taking credit for this, but the team came up with this idea of a stained glass artist called Harry Clark, who's an Irish illustrator, back in the 1920s or whatever, famous for all these churches, and he would have done Bewley's Cafe, and his loads of work all over the place. And he died quite young, and he illustrated some amazing Hans Christian Andersen and all these books. And I don't know how that, look, you're talking about me, I don't know how this guy did it back then, but yeah, Harry Clark was the inspiration. So we used his kind of designs, and we did an animated version of it, and we had these big black like lead lines that you'd see in stained glass windows, and I think it just gave the whole film a whole different look. So to explain the animation process, so animation is like 25 frames per second for video, or 24 on film. That actually makes a big difference if you're working on film and digital. But in animation, in terms of frame, like in computer animation, it doesn't matter, because that's you just render it out. For hand drawn, it does. So feature film, like Disney films, they would all be on ones. So they would do a drawn of movement for every one frame, and that's feature films. TV would do for two. They would do one drawn for two frame, and that's just cost thing. It's cheaper to do half the work, and that's where you'd see you don't really see the big difference now in digital stuff, but back in the 90s, if you looked at those TV series and feature films, there's a massive difference, and that's why the likes of Disney and stuff kind of stayed away from big TV shows and stuff, because the quality wasn't there, but no, we actually did ours on trees because of the style, and we slowed it down a little tiny bit, and every now and again we'd freeze the frame, and we'd do the lips on ones, so that's kind of how we work. So to answer your question, it took 2 years to make a 25-minute film. I worked on it for kind of a year, 3 months, 4 months, that kind of timeline.
You say to me that the illustrator and the reader isn't that different, and I'm curious. And you mentioned the work you do with the primary school kids and the four tables and all the rest. You were a primary school kid. I'm curious to know, 7-8-year-old David Butler. Were you like, where did this creativity come from?
I have a theory, and it's not proven.
Okay.
And I've been saying this, and it's becoming more relevant, and I do think there's something in it. I think myself there's some kind of autism traits to my personality. I honestly believe that. And I
Okay.
said it because I've always felt kind of not different. It never bothered me being different to other people, by the way. But I also always felt like all my friends are playing soccer, they're all doing whatever, and I just felt that wasn't for me. And I kind of went into my own little world. And I remember kind of primary school, I would have drawn stuff like the A team just in copybooks and would have had all these stuff. And I just kept at it. I suppose I get a bit of praise for it and I just keep going. I do remember kind of like from third and fourth class in primary school, I do remember this kind of gap happening. So what I'd say is kids are quite talented at that stage. There's loads of my friends who are good at art and at that younger age. And I suppose it's kind of like fourth class or whatever, I felt this gap uh, increasing between myself and my friends. So look, what I'd say is there's friends of mine that were drawing stuff and I they do something really good and I go, oh just I try and beat them and a little kind of competition between us, or oh that person's doing shadows there, or just I never thought of doing shadows, or do you know what I mean? Things like that. And then I kind of, it was like a little competition that was going through myself and my group of friends. And I suppose from kind of fourth class onwards in primary school, I found this kind of gap changing, where I was kind of doing that a bit more and my friends are kind of being left behind. Um, and I have a clear, I actually said this in a recent thing I did with a friend of mine. I had this thing in sixth class in primary school that I knew what I wanted at the end of the end of secondary school. Like I knew at 12 years of age what I wanted. I wanted to do animation. I wanted to go to art college. I wanted to do animation. And I knew that from sixth class in primary school. And that was going through. And that came from uh, seeing an article in the Sunday World with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The guys had a little walk cycle, a 4 or 5 step walk cycle of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I copied that from that. I made my own characters and those positions and made them move in like notebooks and scrapbooks and all that sort of stuff. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And there's another thing as well. My older brother was a big fan of 2000 AD. And one of the big things in 2000 AD was Judge Dredd. And I loved all that stuff. I loved that sci-fi. I loved all those films. And I describe as well that Terminator 2 came out when I was in first class in secondary school. So when I was about 13, really influential. Terminator 2 came out. And Braveheart came out around that time, and Michael Collins came out around that time. These were like really influential on me, and it was like that. Hollywood was coming, was calling. It was like you didn't have to go over to America to do this stuff, or you didn't have to go to Disneyland in California. Like these things were happening around here, and ever since then, like through animation, like I go into schools workshops with kids now and I tell them all the stuff that's being made in Dublin, Doc McStuffins, Amazing World of Gumball, and all these crazy kids animation TV shows that they watch every day and they don't realize they're made in Dublin, or they're made by Irish creatives. And so that was kind of my secondary school kind of
When you're sitting there, right, you know what you want to do. 12 years of age, you have this, I want to be an animator, and that's you've decided. Did you get in trouble in school? Did you get like from 12 to 18, say, with this vision in mind? You knew what you want to do. Did you get bored? Like, how did you survive knowing? Because I mean, career that didn't, career advice probably didn't matter to you. Maths maybe didn't matter to you. Other subjects maybe didn't matter when you were so. Tell me about those few years.
Yeah, look, that was a double-edged sword. Yeah, I suppose I knew I didn't need Irish, I didn't need maths, so I kind of let those things slide. Look, they wouldn't have been my strength anyway. I loved Irish, by the way. I loved learning the language. I love learning the words, but you get into grammar and all that stuff. I just couldn't handle that stuff. And writing essays and stuff. Like I loved kind of learning the words and kind of pigeon Irish, if you like, learn stuff. But once it came to grammar and stuff, I was just switching off. Same with maths as well. Look, once you get off through the basic stuff and you get into Pythagoras theorem and all this stuff, I was just like switching off, you know. Yeah, I wasn't too bad till up about the junior cert, and then I just like, this is going over my head type of stuff. Look, I think it was a double-edged sword, as in, look, I knew what I wanted to do, and like I was confident in what I was doing, and I did my whole journey through, and I had a really influential art teacher as well, who I'm still friends with, actually, a guy called Kieran Bean, and he was really influential because he actually encouraged me what I wanted to do. And look, there's the problem with art, and particularly in secondary school, it's all based on a curriculum. So the teachers teach art to pass the exam, and there's so much more to art, and this is there. I do tell people as well, you could still have a career in animation or a career in filmmaking or whatever you want to do and not be good at this stuff, because it's different. It's like that. There's so many different stuff to it. Like what I say to people, like, you could be working doing colorist in comics and not being able to draw, but you could be doing color theory and you just could be absolutely amazing at color. Or you might not be good at doing life figure drawing, but you might be able to do background art. Or I have friends of mine who've gone on to do architecture, and they found their way into gaming and stuff like that through architecture. But that's like a completely different mindset. And to me, even, you know what I mean? Yeah, so look, it was like a double-edged sword. Look, I never really got in trouble. I did kind of scribble and doodle in my books. That is a trait. When I talk to other creative kids, that is something. Look, it is a little bit boredom. It is escaping into your own world, and it is like, I remember just doodling Batman all the time, running across the page or jumping across and shooting hooks over words. And I have to say, I was quite a nerdy guy in school. Like I was the guy that would have done the school newspaper. I was the guy that organized all this stuff, and this is where all the other stuff is coming in.
Yeah.
You can see where I'm going with this. But I was the guy that did the school newsletter. I would have done the teenage discos. I would have organized the teenage discos. I would have reviewed concerts in the magazines, because that's what I love. I love music, I love film, I love art. I would have done all those little reviews, and I would have went back into school, and when the newsletter, photocopied newsletter, would come out in a few weeks, I was all over that stuff. And there's a couple of friends of mine, and I'm still friends with all those guys as well. We wouldn't have been friends in secondary school, but like, there's this kind of kinship in putting stuff together. And sadly, we actually lost one of our guys through cancer there a few years ago as well. But a friend of our Adon's. But yeah, we would have been like a little kind of plan getting this stuff together. And look, it was a thing as well. We used to get out the odd few classes and stuff. I would have been the kind of prefect in school, so I would have like looked after the younger lads and all that sort of stuff. And I actually did a thing, and I did it for 5th year and 6th year, a little bit of 6th year, and I gave it over to another guy, and I think he got about 2 weeks of it, and I was shut down. But he actually used to run lunchtime radio through the school intercom. I used to pre-record songs on a tape deck, and I used to introduce them, and used to play through tape deck. He used to play the songs for about 15-20 minutes over the school intercom and lunch breaks and stuff. So it was like, I had that stuff even in secondary school, you know.
It's interesting, because I'm going to ask you about technology and the role of technology, and it's mad. You talk about evolution, you know, of the process and doodling and so many. Like, it's amazing to hear the different layers that are involved. And you know, we don't think of architecture as, I suppose, art in the sense that, you know, people see the result as a house, and it's fascinating to scratch the surface and the layers. So to go from playing tapes, pre-recorded tapes, and you know, I remember rushing to get the song myself and press record and play at the same time, and God forbid you miss the start of it. But technology now, and where we're going. I mean, we have metaverse, for example, and we can go into these other places with our avatars and become someone else. And it's almost full circle. I think that, when maybe you're a kid and you're going somewhere else, it's not conventional, and you're seen as maybe the weird kid or the kid who's a bit different, or whatever it is. But now we have this world coming around in terms of technology. We are avatars in a metaverse, and that's the next thing. And the technology and the journey, even for you, maybe from Dunleary at the time, doing the animation, that there was nothing happening in Dublin, and now all of these fantastic shows and creations are happening, an hour up the road. What is your opinion, David, on the role of technology, maybe the future of the work that you do? Where is it going?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I suppose I'll just explain my kind of own stuff of it. And look, I'm kind of here in my 40s here, and I do all this stuff as well. And I see these kids like 14 and just blown me away. Like I have a niece at the minute that's so creative, doing absolutely amazing stuff, teaching herself stuff off YouTube and all this stuff, and doing all the digital pads. It's brilliant. I really love it. And what I describe to people as well, like I have more technology, filmmaking technology in a phone now than we had nearly in college. We would have had line testers in college that would have been all Amiga PCs and stuff. And I was laughing at this, actually, another thing as well. I did 3 years in college. I did not own a PC in those 3 years. So my only experience of the internet was through the college, and I didn't even own a PC. So I used to come home, write out my scripts from my animation, go down to my aunt's who had a PC, and type up my animation projects, put it on a floppy disk, and come back in. And sometimes when I was under pressure or whatever, my aunt would actually type up stuff for me. She was great. My aunt's Dinger, Kathleen, she's great with that stuff. She used to do a secretarial course. She was like, "Here, get out of the way." Done. Thanks very much. Out the door, Look, it's a different world. It was a different time. Like I'd say to people as well, like we were, it was all like landlines, and like you'd go to college on a Monday morning, Sunday night or Monday morning. Your parents will not know whether you're live or dead until you write back, and that's the truth. Like, you know what I mean? We had so much freedom, like compared to now. Like, and look, there's good and bad and everything, but I used to scribe as well. I used to ring home on a Thursday evening, and you'd have to pre-arrange. Look, I'll ring at 7 o'clock on Thursday, or what I used to have to do is I'd ring my grandparents, my granny had the phone, so I would ring my grandmother, and she'd have to go up the road to tell my parents, "Here, David's on the phone. He's going to ring back in 15 minutes." And you literally hang around the payphone for 15 minutes, hoping no one else gets in that meantime, which did happen as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a different world. And look, I describe as well, you after a night out or whatever, and the clamoring for the phones to try to get a taxi home. And I was saying as well, like you'd arrange with your friends to go out on a Saturday night or whatever, and said you meet up at 8 o'clock, and if you were not there, they're gone.
Tough.
Like they'd have one or two drinks.
Yeah.
There could be a bus going to Newbridge, could be a bus going to Naas, could be going to Carlow, could be going to Portarlington. If you were not there at that time, look, they'll give you half an hour, but like they won't give you an hour. Like and you won't find them. So there's been occasions where you go out, the lads are gone. You haven't, there's like no mobile phones. You don't know where they're gone. You couldn't follow them. And then you'd end up drinking with your dad or finding your uncles or whatever in one of the pubs and having a few pints there. But that was just the time, So look, like I was saying as well, like all the reference stuff, like we have things like Pinterest now I use all the time. So I would pin history stuff, stuff like uniforms and like what the Black and Tans look like and all the reference pictures. And same with Shackling, I would have Pinterest, all of those stuff. Great way of collecting. Like years ago, I would have had scrapbooks. I would have had all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's describing like years ago you'd be doing comics or whatever, and you would look for a reference picture of a tank, and you just wouldn't have it. You'd have to go to the library, or you'd have to take. Oh, you'd see a picture of a tank in a magazine or a newspaper, and you'd cut it out and you'd keep it because you might use it someday, you know. So now all that stuff is all digital. And look, if you want a reference of the tank now, you just pick up your phone and tap it into Google and it's there, you know. But back in the day, that wasn't there. And you'd have to research in libraries and stuff as well.
Are you dropping hints, David, there, Black and Tans? Are you dropping hints? Because I haven't seen Black and Tans, and I think the work you've done. Are you dropping hints about a project or?
Well, I'd say to you, Dave, you missed a trick there, because there is one of the projects there called "The Stolen Rider's Revenge," and the bad guys are the Black and Tans.
Oh, bad me.
But yeah, I actually do have a project, unannounced, to give me an exclusive. Hopefully, I don't get myself in trouble.
Don't get in trouble. You don't have to. But
I know. I think. Look, it's coming, and hopefully by the time this goes to air, the cover and stuff will be out. But I'm working on a graphic novel on Michael Collins, and yeah, I suppose the history team is something that's come through all of my work, through Mario, and just finding these characters, these real characters, and I suppose I kind of found kind of a niche for myself as well, as in I like working the young adults kind of age group, that kind of 8 to 12. I find that that's that Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s kind of vibe. That kind of Teenage Mutant Turtle stuff is all coming into this fore, and that's kind of my bag, if you like. I find I'm working most of that. I think if I do younger stuff, it's a lot harder, and the older stuff as well. So I kind of finding that's the stuff that just flows for me. Yeah, so just this book now, it's not coming out till the autumn in October. The cover should reveal in the next few weeks, so hopefully by the time this goes there, the cover is out. And I'm working with my friend Mario Corrigan. So Mario is the writer on this. This is Mario's first graphic novel. And despite having done Shackleton and all the other stuff, this is an absolute beast of a project. Shackleton was 96 pages. This is actually 64, but the work rate is different. I suppose Shackleton, you had a set amount of characters, and there was all those group of characters, and it was just them going through the journey, whereas this is just bouncing back and forth, like the mansion house, the customs house, the doll, the original doll, like all the characters, same in Devil Era, all those people all have to be researched and looked up, and you try to get a sense of all that stuff as well. And look, you try and make your own character design version of it, and yeah, kind of probably the hardest part is kind of tying it all together, bringing it all in, and making it look like it's not from all those different pieces. But I kind of approaching it the same as, I think I approached the history stuff in the same way as I did with Shackleton, as in there's these little key iconic people know Michael Collins, but they know Michael Collins from, I'd say, about 10, 15 different photographs, key iconic images. So I'm trying to tell the rest of the story in between and flowing through. But yeah, look, it's been a battle itself. Like, it's the project was rejected a few times, and the original publisher of Shackleton has been sold to Guild Books, and Guild Books don't do graphic novels, and so that was gone. So that avenue was gone, and then I had to keep chasing a few different projects, different publishers, and a few of them didn't work, and you get this odd bit of oh, we quite like that, but it's not, we're not going to take it on now. And that's the business side. Unfortunately, that's something you have to learn. So it is a business, and like, they're not going to invest that amount of work, that amount of time, and that much expense printing these books, unless they feel they're going to get a return. And I suppose when I'd done shackling and stuff, I was able to go back and say, right, I have this book made on shackling. I was able to send that book to them. So you become less of a risk. You've done it before. And the fact I've worked with Mario for a couple of years as well, and we are a good team and we work well together. So that's a bonus as well. And yeah, so hopefully what I've realized is those kind of barriers get knocked down, as in you're less of a risk. You're more business. You're more, if you have a better chance of success after time, or if you've a proven record. And yeah, look, that's in animation, that's in filmmaking as well. So you'd see these people that have a bit of success getting more work, getting stuff. And if you're trying to get on that ladder, it's hard, you know. And that's, to be honest, that's why I kind of got out of filmmaking and got out of animation. It was just, you can never, like, I had my own TV series in development, and we got actually beaten to funding by an Oscar nominated Irish animation studio, and that was it. And look, we were just torpedoed out of the water. I said, forget about it, lads. We're going with these. Good luck. And that's just part of it. And that's kind of, but look, I just, from my own creative side, I just keep going. Just find different avenues. I love music, I love art, I love film, I love animation. I love lots of the stuff that I loved when I was 15. And I still get excited by Batman. I still get excited by bits and pieces that come out, and Star Wars and all that sort of stuff as well. So that's all part of it. And yeah, just thankfully I got a chance to do a few things. And look, the dream changes as well. Like I would have loved to do 2000 AD and all that, Judge Dredd and all that stuff. And look, that stuff hasn't happened. And maybe someday, but it's not in the immediate future. I found my niche. I've found my happy medium, and I'm bringing these historical figures to life to new audiences and stuff as well. So that's all cool, you know.
Look forward to seeing that. Come here to me. Tell me where we can find you. Where can people see and buy the work? And yeah, tell us where you are.
Yeah, so I have my own website, anithing.ie. So it's ANITHING. So it's animation things. So that's where that word came from. It was ANI for animation, as in ANY. So that's where that kind of came in. And I would have set myself up years ago as Anithing Productions. I would have been self-employed under that. And I tried to do a studio at one stage. Would have tried to do it officially. And then as things change, it's kind of back to it. But that's where the website is. Anithing Artist on Facebook and Instagram. You will find the Michael Collins book on the Brian Press. Look out for it. You'll see it in the next few weeks. So this is March now. Hopefully by the end of March, April, the book will be released out in the world and going for pre-sale and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and then in June, we're coming back with CelticCon. So our Newbridge event is confirmed, and just after this recording, I'm on a call later on, hopefully doing the Portarlington one. So hopefully, so the Newbridge one is June the 6th, June Bank Holiday in Newbridge, June Fest, and the Portarlington one will hopefully be at the end of June, as part of the old fourth quarter festival. So that's the plans for that. So hopefully that will come through in the next few weeks. And yeah, just beyond that, all the book stuff is all hidden away at the minute. But as the release date and stuff starts coming out, there will be a campaign. We will be releasing that into the wild, as I say. That's a scary thing. It's
but worth it. But it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, look, it's there, and look, you do these things, and you, like, I describe stuff like you do these short stories, these 8-page, 4-page things, and then you do these massive. So it's like doing short films and then doing the feature film, and then you release it out, and then something like Mike Collins, he's so well known, so iconic, and you hope you get the mix right and people go easy, and I've learned from Shackleton. I got a few not bad reviews, but a few comments, and I'd look at them and go, do you know what? That person's actually right. So sometimes it's not all bad, you know. I haven't had the onslaught. It's all been good, and I do feel people are very positive. Like if you have a positive thing, people are positive behind you. And look, I've filled my social media with friends and like-minded people and creators like yourself, Dave, and the Power Words Festival and the Dunamaze Arts Centre and the Celticon community. Look, we're all a community, we're all friends, and we're all trying to do the same thing and help the next people out. And we all like what he do. Like there's no one go kind of slating or big stuff, but like we'll see. It's scary. It's like when you're putting this stuff out in the public. Yeah, it's good.
It's hard. It's hard, but it's good. It's good. We are coming on time, sir. So what I'd say is people need to check out anithing.ie. That's anithing.ie to keep up to date and up to speed with the antics. David Butler, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much, David.
And that's it for another week. Thanks for joining us this morning, and do join us next time on Be Your Best You. Have a good week.